Hello and welcome to the Fog channel. This video is all about Amazon's new game, New World. More specifically, we're looking at whether or not New World is dying. Whether it's on the road to becoming an unpopular game so soon after finally releasing. There's no question New World had a pretty good launch, when it actually managed to finally launch, that is. The Steam charts show nearly 1 million players were playing during the first week of launch. But, as it usually happens with most games, it inevitably started to lose players, dropping down to between 100,000 to 300,000. And even now with its latest update, which is titled Into the Void, it continues to lose players. Now I'm sure that I will undoubtedly get hate for this video from, the fanboys or whatever, but nonetheless, this is what I do. So, I don't really care. If you want to hate, go right ahead. I will still be criticizing games and talking about the toughest topics that some people don't really want to discuss. Maybe because they're afraid of the hate. I don't know. Anyway, New World had a pretty tough start to its life. From being delayed from a 2020 release all the way until the very end of September 21, to bricking brand new NVIDIA RTX GPU cards like the prohibitively expensive 3090 card. It wasn't looking great, but when it did launch, it still attracted a very healthy number of players. And even though New World has a good number of issues, the game itself is actually quite good and pretty fun in my opinion. For the most part, it has an excellent crafting system, a great loot system with lots of variety within the loot pool, a solid leveling system with easy to use skill trees, lots of build options, lots of NPCs. But it does have a huge problem, which stares all of us right in the face, and that's of course the traveling, especially during the initial level up grind. It's just so painful when you don't have enough Azoth, or whatever it's called, to hop from city to city to get things done and get yourself on the path to a high enough level to try and do the harder content, and have enough Azoth to freely fast travel without consequences, or at least with minimal consequences. For me, as I started and grinded through all the initial quests and missions, it did get very quickly to be an absolute chore to have to run through the map for 10 minutes or 20 minutes. Sometimes felt like an hour every time I needed to get somewhere. It also held me back because I stopped wanting to go too far away from my base, as I just couldn't be bothered with all the running. It quickly stopped me from wanting to progress, and every time I started up the game, my thoughts were, I really can't be bothered with the traveling, and surely over time I just stopped turning the game on. It just feels too much like work and not a lot like fun. I'm sure there's many people out there that might enjoy this kind of running simulator model MMO, but I'm quite certain that there's a lot more people that will quickly get bored of it and just end up leaving, because it's just not fun. And that's a shame in my opinion, because I really like everything else, but the long periods where you're just trying to get somewhere just to turn in quests and missions take away all the fun. And yeah, as I said, it's a fun, interesting game. I love the loot system, I really like the combat, the entire concept is great, but the traveling and the running around is not so great. Another big problem is also how repetitive and grindy the game is. There is certainly a lack of variety when it comes to all the quests and missions, and for the most part, we're all just doing the same things over and over again, day in, day out, just to level up your character. When that's combined with little to no fast travel system, it becomes almost unbearable to play after just a few hours. And none of this is made any simpler in any way, shape or form, because the game is designed to continuously keep you grinding and grinding and grinding. It's almost laughable how in your face the grind is. The thing is, I do like the combat and the loot, as I said, and making my character more and more powerful, but there's a huge imbalance between that side of the game and the rest of the game. If they brought down the immense grind and gave us a better travel system, basically balancing out the game a bit more, I think they'd have much more success in holding on to the players and keeping players engaged and entertained by the game. We'll also quickly touch upon playing as a party, because one of the reasons I play these sorts of games is so I can party up and play with my friends. It makes the grind go much quicker. It makes the whole experience much more fun, and well, that's the whole point of these games, to be able to play and get through it with friends. But the system and the design is just really terrible. Me and my two friends joined into the same server, but we all started in different cities, which basically meant we all had individual paths to follow. Maybe there's some sort of way around this, but the game does not do a good job of explaining how that's done. In any case, it meant that we were all just doing our missions and quests solo whilst we were in a party, which is just pointless. I mean, sometimes we'd have the same quest and we'd go do it together, but once we'd complete that, we'd all have to go our separate ways again to continue the grind. It's a silly way to design a co-op system. It just ended up that my friends left the game because they obviously weren't having any fun, and so that was another reason why I stopped turning the game on as well. I also just want to state that I haven't tried the PvP experience here, mainly because in my mind, I wanted to grind up to the higher levels before taking on PvP, as most of the PvP players will undoubtedly be much more powerful than me, and as I'm only around level 25 or whatever, I'd probably get slaughtered. But I have heard some good things about the PvP in New World. Unfortunately, I can't comment on it because the PvE is so broken that I can't get to the levels that would allow me to go into PvP because the grind is too ridiculous. Another problem is the optimization. Now, it's not the worst, but surely it could be better. I run an RTX 3060 Ti, and for the most part, everything works just fine. But there are times where you do get quite a bit of stuttering, which is massively annoying, to say the least. Now, granted, it's not so frequent when you're out in the world, but in the cities, sometimes you completely lose your bearings due to the huge frame drops and stutters. I get that this is a brand new company, and this is their first game and all, but still, they have some of the most experienced developers out there that they hired from other companies, so it really should be a priority to get the game optimized. There's also the whole issue with the servers. A lot of players don't like this kind of system, mainly because of exactly what happened when the game first launched. There was just not enough space for everyone. During the launch, some players reported waiting for hours in the queue to get into a server, which is obviously a joke. Of course, we've stopped hearing about this more recently because, well, there's a lot of people quitting the game, so the servers are freeing up. I do honestly think that there is a lot of potential here. This could really be a great game. If I was the person in charge, the first thing I would do is make fast travel either completely free or at least a heck of a lot cheaper. This would basically allow a much higher new player count to stay in the game for longer, which ultimately would inevitably lead to a higher percentage of those players to stay right to the end and start grinding the end game and playing PvP. And then the second thing I'd do is introduce some kind of horse to allow travel in the world to be done quicker. That would also help to minimize time lost when we do have to travel. It would also be great if the horse had saddlebags, where we could store more resources to bring into the cities, kinda like Red Dead Redemption. In my opinion, just sorting out the whole travel system would bring players back, but not only that, new players wouldn't get so bored so easily. That's really the first step, in my opinion. And that's really it from me. Let me know your opinion on New World. What would you change? What ideas do you have? Let me know in the comments. I appreciate you all watching. Thank you very much. See you next time. A goodbye.